Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and here I am back with another video on HOC, high order components in React.js. So these high order components are very important when you actually work with React.js or even you work with JavaScript. You should know about what is high order component or what is high order functions, right? Let's come back to our demonstration. So even if you go to documentation, you would be able to read about it. So high order components, which we generally use to highly used to create a concept of reusability, right? So whenever we talk about reusability, right, so we talk about high order components, which is one of them in React.js. So where we create a let's say we have a common layout, right, where we have a header and footer, that's very general, right? So you need a header and footer or for some of your sections, right, or some of your components required all of these common components. So you will not import every time, right, in each and every section, and that's how you will use it, header and footer, right? That's not something we call the better way to use React.js components. So that's why we have high order components, where we create one kind of layout, right, which accept these two, like header and footer, and also that particular section as a properties, right? So that's how you will use it. So let's see. So let's understand first how JavaScript function can be a HOC, right? That's when you can easily understand how React.js high order component will work. Okay, so let me define one add function. So I'm using the same setup, React.js setup, function add, right? So let me have some gap so that you can understand. Okay, so this accept two parameter, so it add a plus b. So now you can define one more function called HOC, which accept one as a parameter, second as a method, right? So this is accepting a method, and we are reusing that method and basically returning something. So we can say param method. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are again returning function, right? So this is a function. So what we can do? So what we can do here, we can pass a value which we are receiving here as a parameter, and second we can pass some other value, which, let's say I wanted to have a default or maybe the fixed value. Let's say I said headers, right, which is common, right? So let's say I have a fixed value to add every time. So now how can we use this HOC? So we can invoke that HOC, right, and first parameter, right, which is our a. So basically one dynamic value I want to pass. So let's say I wanted to pass 10. The second parameter, which is our method, so which method I wanted to execute for this calculation. So this can be your add or subtraction or any kind of this, like you can also create a calculator using HOC, right? Easy. So you can pass this add method here, right? So what you are saying here, do the calculation add, right? Do the calculation add with number 10. So console.log. Okay, so let me log this value here. So if you come back to demonstration, you have this 30 value. So basically you're passing this 10 here, receiving as a parameter, passing again back to the referenced function or method which you are receiving as a parameter, right? So you are again passing that particular data further to the child method, right? So and then you are sending one fixed value which is 20. So that's how it is added and got as a 30. Can also have one sub method. Okay, you might be doing the minus of it. So in the another example, you can again reuse this, right? Now you can see. So I'm still using the HOC, right? And I still can do like I can use this HOC again for some other purpose, right? So now you can see here minus 10. Okay, that's how we can use high order component in JavaScript. So now let's see how we can use in React.js. Okay, so let me clean up this one. Okay, if you understood. Okay, let's come back and create one folder, HOC. Okay, let me have one file called layout.jsx. Okay, one is this one. I will create a header.jsx. Okay, one I will create footer, JSX, okay, and one I will create our section, okay. So I'll come back to each and every one. So let me have this section first, okay. Let's come back to layout later, okay. So layout is our layout HOC, I will say, okay. So layout HOC. So layout HOC is one we're going to use as a HOC, like which we had an example in our JavaScript function, right? So let me create our section first, okay. So RSF. So this RSF, right? This RSF have a like this is one section which can use our HOC, right? It can have a number of things, like can have is section 1, okay, right? And let's keep this and let me have some BRs here so that I have some gaps, so I can show you, okay. We have some gaps and we have, this is the section 1. Let me define my footer RSF, okay. So this will have h3 tag, and I can say this is footer, okay. And the similar way I can create for header RSF h1 tag, we can say this is header, okay. Let me use h2 here, okay. Now we have this header footer ready, and even I have a section ready, but now our layout HOC is not yet ready. So what can we do here? So HOC will accept our components, right, and other properties or data. So we can define const layout HOC, okay. So I'll come back to this. So let me export this, export default layout HOC, okay. So we have this here. So now what I accept here, I accept a component so that I can reuse it. Component, okay. I accept a component, I accept some data, okay. If I have some data, like basically if I'm using this and that particular component have some data in it, okay. So what I'm returning here, I will return, okay. So this has to be this way, like, because we are returning whole component back, so we need to return a component now, okay. So we are receiving component not yet used here, right? And now this component we are returning, so where I will be returning a JSX, right, which carry some of the things. So because I'm creating a layout, right, so which carry some of the things, what it carry, some JSX, so I can return anything here. So what is the first thing I will return? So I will return the component back which I am receiving as a prop, okay. And I will return all the props I'm receiving. There might be some props, right, which you are passing through from the previous component. So I will just quickly use the spread operator so that it will copy, like it carry the existing props plus it also copy the previous props, okay. Now as I told you, right, we need to use this header and footer as a component, as a common component. So what we can do here, we can import this header component here, okay. And similarly the footer components here. So what we are doing, if you look at this properly, so what we are doing here, we are receiving a component, returning a component basically. So we are receiving a component, okay. We again generating a JSX out of it, right, passing through all the props, right. And also we are using this header and footer here. So this HOC which we have created, right, we can reuse it multiple times. How can we do that? So let's use this section here. So let me create BR, then div, and I'll just import that first here. So we have not yet used the HOC. So let me just render this section here. Section, okay. So we have this section. If you come back here, you have this section here. But if you notice one thing here in the DOM, so you only have this h1 tag, right? So your HOC is not yet, so your HOC is not yet used, right? So let's come back. So this section which we are using here, that should have your header and footer. What will you do? Either you import here every time, right? Like you can do that if you want. Like let's say you have a 10,000 sections, so you cannot do that, right? It's tough to import every time, and that's not a good practice. So what can we do? We can wrap the HOC here, like we can say HOC. Okay, sorry. So layout HOC, sorry. So layout HOC, and you can wrap. So basically what is happening here? So you can also pass some data. Let's say you wanted to pass new data. So as we have the second parameter, right, in this data, which we are not even using. So that is what it is. HOC is receiving first parameter as a component. Just understand that part, right? Second parameter is a data. If you don't want to pass, don't pass. And you can also remove it from here. It's up to you. Sometimes you require to pass some data, right? That's when you need to do something like this. So as we are not doing something like this, or we are not passing some data to reuse it further, you can also do that if you want. So let's say your footer have something to do with the data, right? Based on your particular section, your footer will change, right? Footer data will change. So you can pass that data here, right? So you can say footer 1, right? So you can accept as a footer data, right? And you can pass this as a prop. Okay, that's the best thing about React. And then you can receive as a props here. So you can say const. Okay, so this footer data can pass. This is footer data basically. Okay, so now what is happening here? Again, we'll come back and review this. So we are importing section here, and section is basically wrapped around this layout HOC, which accept first parameter as a component. How you can see that? You can see here first parameter is a component, so you're passing your component here. Second parameter, you're passing footer data, which you are receiving as a data and passing through as a prop. Okay, here you are importing the common components, right? Awesome. So now you are using everything here. So let's come back to our demonstration. So if you see here, so all the elements is rendered. Like now your section wrapped around the HOC. Because of that, you will get the header and footer. So let's clean up a bit. So you can remove this div so that it will render without div inside DOM. So if you go back now, you can see your header, can see your div, which is your section 1, which has this br, right? And you have this footer. Okay, this is footer 1, and footer 1 is dynamic here. So what can we do with this dynamic part? So you can copy paste this section. You can say section 1, right? And you can just quickly say section 1 you are passing here, and you can say footer 2, right? So now what will happen? As you are doing dynamic, like as you have created the HOC, right? That's the benefit, right? You are still using the same layout, and you'll be passing different data. You'll be passing different data to footer. Okay, so you can just import the section 1. Okay, awesome. So now if you see here, you have footer 2, right? Here is a footer 1. So that's the good part of using HOC in React. Okay, so I think hope you have understood most of it, right? So how can you create more HOC components in React.js, and how can you reuse it? So there might be different scenarios, right? So you might have your different layouts, right? So one section you wanted to show header in some other manner, or some left side or right side, you have different thing. One section you want to do a different way. So this section, the mid section, can be your different section, and around your main section you can have something else in the layout. So this is how you can create your HOC components and reuse it. So I think it's a very small demonstration. Maybe in future videos where we'll have more examples, or we'll be doing a small project, that's when I will use more of HOCs to handle these kind of scenarios, right? So I think you can try more examples, and if you have any questions, please do reach out to me over comments and my channel JavaScriptBrew on Instagram and on Telegram. Okay, thank you everyone, and please do like this video and subscribe to my channel and press bell icon for latest videos. And I will be coming up with another video in 1 or 2 days. Please stay tuned on this particular series, and thanks for all your support and likes. Bye bye, take care, have a nice day.